Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of literature Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning, the class will be on Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, verse 39, and the chapter is entitled The Passing of Bhishmadev in the Presence of Lord Krishna, and the class will be given by His Grace Visnugada Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Vanchakrapatu Bhyascha, Kripa Sindhubevicha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare
And it's all
Krishna.
yours, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vana Chari. Jamuna Tira Vana Chari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahams Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shishimar His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading, studying, and discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam, first canto, 9th chapter, 39th verse. This is Bhishmadev departure in the presence of Lord Krishna. Vijaya Rata Kutumba Ata Totre Dhritakhoya Rashmini Tachtriye Kashaniye Bhagavati Ratir Astume Mumurshor Yam Ihani Rikshahata Gata Swarupam Vijaya Rata Kutumba Ata Totre Dhritakhoya Rashmini Tachtriye Kashaniye Bhagavati Ratir Astume Mumukshor Yam Ihani Rikshya Hata Gata Swarupam Vijayarata Kutumba Ata Totre Drita Hoya Rashmini Tachtriya Chasaniye Bhagavati Ratir Astume Mumurshor Ya Ihani Rikshya Hata Gata Swarupam. Please chant.
Vijayaratha Kutumba Atatotre Dritahaya Rashmini Tachriyekshanye Bhagavati Ratirastu Me Mumurshor Yam Iha Nirikshya Hata Gata Swarupam.
Vijayarata Kutumba Atatotre Dritahaya Rashmini Tat Shiyekshanye Bhagavati Rati Astume Mumushu Yam Iha Nirikshya Hata Kata Swarupam. Hare Krishna.
Vijaya Rata Kutumba Atatotre Dritta Haya Rishmi Nita Chri Ekshaniye Bhagavati Rati Rastu Me Mumusor Yam Hiya Nirikshya Hata Gata Swarupam.
Vijayarata Kutumba Ata Totre Trutahaya Rashmini Tata Shriyashaniye Bhagavati Ratirastu Me Mumursho Yam Ihya Niraksha Hata Kataha Swarupam.
Vijaya Arjuna Ratha Chariot Kutumbe, the object of protection at all risk. Atatotre, with a whip in the right hand. Dritahoya, controlling the horses. Rashmini, ropes. Tatsriya, beautifully standing. Ikshaniye, to look at. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Ratiyastu, let my attraction be. My Mumursho, one who is about to die. Yam, upon whom, Iha, in this world, Nirikshya, by looking, Hata, those who died, Gata, attained, Svarupam, original form. Translation. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself because of being transcendentally related by loving service. Such a pure devotee cannot forget the Lord for a moment. This is called trance. The mystic yogi tries to concentrate upon the supersoul by controlling the senses from all other engagements, and thus he ultimately attains samadhi. A devotee more easily attains samadhi or trance by constantly remembering the Lord's personal feature along with his holy name, fame, pastimes, etc. Therefore, the concentration of the mystic yogi and that of the devotee are not on the same level. The concentration of the mystic is mechanical, whereas that of the pure devotee is natural in pure love and spontaneous affection. Bhishma Dev was a pure devotee, and as a military marshal, he constantly remembered the battlefield feature of the Lord as Parthasarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. Therefore, the Lord's pastime as Parthasarathi is also eternal. The pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kamsa up to the Moshala Lila at the end, all move one after another in all the universes, just as the clock hand moves from one point to another. And in such pastimes, his associates, like the Pandavas and Bhishma, are constant, eternal companions. So Bhishma Dev never forgot the beautiful feature of the Lord as Parthasarathi, which even Arjuna could not see. Arjuna was behind the beautiful Parthasarathi, while Bhishma Dev was just in front of the Lord. As far as the military feature of the Lord is concerned, Bhishma Dev observed this with more relish than Arjuna. All the soldiers and persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original spiritual form like the Lord after their death. Because of the causeless mercy of the Lord, they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. The conditioned souls rotating in the evolutionary cycle from aquatics up to the form of Brahma are all in the form of Maya, or the form attained by one's own actions and awarded by material nature. The material forms of the conditioned souls are all foreign dresses. And when the conditioned soul becomes liberated from the clutches of material energy, he attains his original form. The impersonalist wants to obtain the impersonal Brahman effulgence of the Lord, but that is not at all congenial to the living sparks, parts and parcels of the Lord. Therefore, the impersonalists again fall down and get material forms, which are all false to the spirit soul. A spiritual form like the Lord's, either two-handed or four-handed, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in the Vaikunthas or in the Goloka planet, according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is 100% spiritual, is the Svarup of the living being. And all the living beings who participated in the battlefield of Kurukshetra on both sides attained their Svarup, as confirmed by Bhishmadev. So Lord Shri Krishna was not merciful only to the Pandavas. He was also merciful to the other parties because all of them attained the same result. Bhishmadev wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord. Although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances. The conclusion is that whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead within or without attains his Svarup, which is the highest perfection of life. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gatamayam Dadati Sha Pandantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This verse is a beautiful prayer by Bhishmadev as he's lying on a bed of arrows just prior to leaving his body. So it's a prayer. It's a prayer that his mind be fixed in the ultimate attraction to Lord Krishna, but in a particular form, this form of Arjuna driving the chariot of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, a very, very iconic picture. This same form we see on in the cover of the old Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? That picture of Krishna as the charioteer of Arjuna. At some point during this class, it'd be good to put that on the screen, that picture, just to take a good look at it, but not right now, but maybe halfway through or so. If we could find that picture, it's just to meditate on it, just like Bhishmadev is. So this is really a prayer to Lord Krishna to please allow his attraction to be focused on that form. There are a couple of very similar, you might know, there's probably more than a couple, but there's several similar prayers like this that you may be aware of. I don't know if this triggers any remembrance of any other similar prayers. Any ideas?
Queen Kunti, Prabhu?
And what was that? You just did complete the prayers of Queen Kunti. Was there any particular prayer of Queen Kunti?
One prayer that I can kind of paraphrase that sticks.
That's okay.
in my mind. That is a challenge for me to follow. Yeah, that's why it sticks to mind. Is to give me calamity so that I will always remember you. That's a difficult one. That one stays with my mind because I'm not able to
Yeah, that's a very tough one.
Yes. so that she can always remember the Lord is by giving her calamities in life.
Vipada tantu takshashvad tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatyat apunad bhavadarshanam. Yeah, that let these calamities happen again and again so that we may see you again and again. Because by seeing you, we'll no longer have to see repeated birth and death. Yeah, it's a good. Yes, yes, very good. Any others that just come to mind? Of course, there's a difference between, what's the difference between that prayer and this prayer?
This prayer, what's coming to me, Prabhu, is Bhishma Dev is lying on the arrows of bed and he's at the moment of death.
Yes. Very good, very good. So this one, there's actually right before he leaves his body. And the Queen Kunti prayer, even though she went through many, she and the Pandavas went through many calamities, which were like almost as close to death, but she wasn't at that point in time faced with death when she was praying at that time. Yeah. So, but the similar emotions and desires are being expressed. Yeah. Very good. I was thinking of the prayer that you said, Tvai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate sakrit ratim uddavad adha gange vaugum odanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So that idea of let me my attraction here, because he's talking that word attraction, Bhishma Dev. And of course the same thing applies. Kunti Devi at that time wasn't on her deathbed like Bhishma Dev. And we say that Krishna, another meaning of Krishna, is the all attractive person, isn't it? So the soul is naturally attracted to Krishna, but something has gotten in the way of our attraction. That's all these material coverings, material identities that we are overwhelmed with, and therefore it's we become distracted by so many other things. It's something like what the example is given as a magnet naturally attracts what? Iron, right? Yeah, iron, naturally. But there's a certain kind of iron that it doesn't attract. What is that?
We are all asking Parikshit because he's a chemist. I don't know.
Rusty, when it's got covered with rust, the attraction doesn't go, isn't it? Parikshit Prabhu? Yes, that's the example I've heard. I actually never tried it. So our soul, our real identity, naturally, Krishna is all attractive. And if we're free from the rust of material consciousness, our material bodily conceptions, then naturally our attraction to Krishna is generated. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that a pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself. So we know that, and also that's the same idea as given in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshi vilokayanti yam shyama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. These pure devotees always see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, tinged with his eyes, tinged with the salve of love, always within themselves. Srila Prabhupada wrote in a letter to a devotee that the question was, what's the relation of Krishna and the devotee in the spiritual world. And Srila Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world, Krishna also remains in the heart of the spirit, the spiritual body. Krishna is there. Very interesting, huh? Very interesting. He's there. Krishna is the super soul of the super soul in the spiritual body. So another example of this kind of prayer is the prayer by Maharaja Kurukshetra. I don't know if you're familiar with Maharaja Kurukshetra. He was a great king, and usually he's considered an alwar. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya in South India, there are great devotees that appeared in South India in the line of Lakshmi or Sri Sampradaya, and they're called alwars. And one of them was Kurukshetra Maharaj. So he prayed, Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjaranta Advaiva Vishutu Me Manasa Raja Hamsa Pranat Prayana Samaye Kavapada Kavabatta Pittai Kanta Varo Danabidho Smaranam Kutaste. O Lord Krishna, now let my mind, the swan of my mind, enter the tangled stems of your lotus feet. Because at the time of death, when my throat will be choked up in death rattle, and mucus, bile, and air will be all disturbed, how will it be possible for me to chant your holy name and remember you? Similar. Kurukshetra Maharaj prayer. So this is the important thing. We're reminded in this verse, although talking about death is not supposed to be done in polite circumstances, but Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that a symptom of knowledge is always to be remembering the evils of janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi. So it reminds us that yes, this situation will be coming to all of us. Probably we won't be on a bed of arrows like Bhishmadev, but we will be facing other kinds of, like Maharaj Kurukshetra, other kinds of disturbances that will tend to distract us from our pure concentration on the spiritual personality of Godhead. So another thing about this prayer is this is Bhishmadev. His consciousness is so clear. Can you imagine? His body is pierced by dozens of arrows, backside, front side, and still he's able to compose this wonderful prayer and speak on transcendental subject matters. How is that possible? How is it possible? If my body was full of just a few sores, I'd be groaning. But this is he's actually he's transcendentally situated. So even though the physical body is full of arrows, he's still in pure transcendental consciousness. Even that's a devotee practices within their life, as Mother Anasuya said. There's all kinds of disturbances that a devotee will be faced with in life, all kinds of them. And by practicing at those times, remembering Krishna, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when there's all kinds of pains and other kinds of distractions, then it's possible at the time of death, as Bhishma's doing, even in the bed of arrows, to remember Krishna. So that's part of our practice of Krishna consciousness, is to not just remember Krishna when it's easy, but to remember Krishna, Lord Krishna, when it's hard, as Mother Kunti was in her prayers, as Mother Anasuya mentioned. Then there's this point that the Parthasarati feature of the Lord is eternal. What do you make of that? So is he eternal? Is there Parthasarati going on in Krishna Loka or what?
So the pastimes continue on other planets, other universes.
Well, how's that?
Sri Prabhupada
Explain.
describes it's like we use the clock and the different times. Like if it's 3 o'clock here, it could be 5 o'clock somewhere else. And if at 3 this particular pastime takes place, then the 5 at that place a different pastime is taking place. But it could be 3 o'clock somewhere else, and that pastime is taking place there. That's my understanding.
Okay. So I just want a couple of questions for you then. So say, here we have the pastime of Bhishma Dev, and then Arjuna is there, and they're thinking about this, the Bhishma Dev is thinking about this Parthasarati feature. So Arjuna was there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but then, previously he was, Arjuna was there and during the Rajasuya sacrifice, right? Arjuna and Krishna were there, which was prior to this, isn't it? So maybe you can understand where I'm getting at. So Arjuna, if the pastimes are rotating in every universe, so somewhere, even while this pastime is going on, there's another universe where Arjuna is there with Krishna, having the Rajasuya sacrifice. You follow? You follow?
Yes.
So does that mean there's more than one Arjuna? Question for you. What's going on here? How's that?
That's an interesting situation. I didn't think of that deeply.
I was thinking about this. I mean, so I found a letter from Srila Prabhupada that I thought it elaborates on this. It was a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Mother Sharadiya, who was a painter, devotee who was a painter. And let me read that letter that sheds some light on this point. My dear Sharadiya, it also has that idea of the spirit soul and spiritual world. You have asked how Krishna is with the spirit soul in the spiritual world. And the answer is that Krishna is the heart of the spirit soul or spiritual body. So Krishna is never apart from us. Either he remains in the heart of the material body, or he remains in the heart of the spiritual body. This is Krishna's causeless mercy to all of his beloved children or living entities. To answer your second question, you should know that Arjuna and Kunti Devi are not in Krishna Loka. Do you get that? Do you get that? You should know that Arjuna and Kunti Devi are not in Krishna Loka. They are eternally associated with Krishna only in the material world. Just like Krishna is always in the spiritual world, so similarly, he is always in the material world, and his pastimes are going on there also. In the material world, Krishna also has eternal associates. In the material world, Krishna also has eternal associates, such as Arjuna and Kunti Devi. There is a difference between the body and soul of Arjuna and Kunti Devi. But although Arjuna is with Krishna in innumerable different universes at one time, and although Arjuna is with Krishna in innumerable different material universes at one time, still there is only one spirit soul who is Arjuna. This spirit soul expands into many different bodies, and thus you can understand that there are also incarnations of devotees as well as incarnations of Krishna. This is the power of the spirit soul, that it is unlimited. Such a conception cannot be understood while one is still in the conditioned state. Okay, so that last statement kind of wraps it up. But you got some of this. Did you hear some of that stuff? That's pretty mind blowing to me. So I always wondered, like, for example, when the demigods, after Brahma was approached by Bhumi about the difficult, terrible condition on the earth planet, so they went, Brahma and the different demigods and Bhumi went to the shore of the Milk Ocean and said the Purusha Sukta prayer and prayed, and Brahma said in meditation. Then he got a message back from Lord Vishnu. And what was that message? In the heart of Brahma, what was that message? Remember?
Prabhu, can you repeat the question again?
Yes. So the demigods, like Lord Brahma, etc., and Bhumi went to the shore of the Milk Ocean, and they prayed and Brahma sat in meditation, and he got a message transmitted from Lord Vishnu to his heart, which he announced to all the demigods. And what was that message?
Was it that the Lord would appear very soon?
Yes, that was the first part, and there's a second part to the message too.
But they should take birth in the Yadu dynasty.
Yes, that they're supposed to take birth in the Yadu dynasty. So you got all these demigods who are in the world, in the universe, doing their jobs, right? And so now they're supposed to take birth in the Yadu. Well, who's taking care of their jobs in the universal administration? What's happening? So this explains it, that the devotees can expand. We can't understand it how they do it, because usually you think, well, one soul in one body, right? But those advanced devotees or pure devotees like Arjuna, they can be in more than one place at once. And it's not like the mystic yogi who can expand in different forms, but they have to do the same thing in every form. But by the grace of the Lord, devotees can expand, and obviously they're doing different things in different universes, or different things even in this universe, if they're expanding as to participate in Lord Krishna's pastimes on earth. For example, one of the sons of Krishna, was said to be the expansion of Lord Brahma. Do you know that? That's in the Garga Samhita, but those things are said. So this is very interesting. Parthasarati. So then the next point, which is very interesting, all many interesting points here, is that all the people, not just the lawyers, but all the persons there were other persons there, like the chariot drivers and people who took care of the horses. All of them got their svarup. So what is svarup? What is svarup?
It's the original spiritual form, Prabhu?
Yes. So mukti hitvanyata svarupena vyavastiti. Real liberation, Lord Chaitanya said, is to attain your original constitutional position, which is to be an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's liberation. So here it said that all of those persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they saw the form of the Lord, all of them got their svarup. We're not talking about Brahma Jyoti, right? Not talking about, impersonal liberation, right? We're talking about going back to Godhead, having a form like that of Krishna, whether it's two-handed or four-handed. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? How many persons were there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra?
Oh my God.
640 million.
Huge number, there was 7 Akshohini on the Pandava side and 11 Akshohini on the on the Kaurava side. So whatever that, that's a huge number. So all of them got spiritual liberation. This is specifically a form like the Lord. So that's called Sarupya Mukti. Sarup Mukti. Yeah. So this is pretty amazing. When Lord Chaitanya and Haridas Thakur were speaking, Lord Chaitanya was lamenting about the people within this, the living entities within this universe who are not progressing in Krishna consciousness, and therefore, like us, we're suffering. So Haridas Thakur, he put a very positive spin on it. He said, well, just by your loud chanting, all the living entities are becoming delivered. And he said, the moving living entities hear your chanting and they respond, just like while you were in the Jarikan forest. Even the elephants and tigers and deers were chanting by your inspiration. And he said, the unmoving entities like stones, trees, they get delivered because the echo of your chanting is their chanting. Did you follow? The echo of their chanting, and so they're also getting delivered. And then he said, when Lord Ramchandra was present on the earth planet, he said, he brought with him back to Vaikuntha all of the residents of Ayodhya. Isn't that interesting? All of the residents of Ayodhya, Lord Ramchandra brought back with him to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. And Haridas Thakur said, and when Lord Krishna came into the universe, he brought back with him to the spiritual world every living entity within the universe. This is Haridas Thakur saying this. So, that's pretty amazing, right? And then he said, and because your devotee, Vasudev Dutt, was praying, let me take the sins of all the people in the universe on my head so they can be delivered. And you said, you're speaking to Lord Chaitanya, and you said, no, just by your desire, that will happen. So Haridas Thakur said, by your chanting and by the desire of Vasudev Dutt, all the living entities in the universe, you're also taking them back to Godhead, like Lord Krishna, which is pretty amazing. So that's the potency of Krishna, the darshan of Krishna. We don't remember that when we go to the temple, isn't it? If we have an open heart and we appreciate these things, that bowing down before the Supreme Personality of Godhead and meditating and praying to his lotus feet, and the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, and the lotus feet of the gurus and Srila Prabhupada, that helps us stop birth and death. And that's by their action. Their action is so powerful. We sometimes forget that. And going along with that, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra has that same effect. It's non-different than the form of Krishna. In fact, it's the beginning of understanding the form of Krishna. Tanama Grahanadibhi. From the name of Krishna, the transcendental holy name of Krishna, then the form of Krishna becomes revealed. So these are pretty amazing points I thought were powerful in this particular purport. Let's see if there's anything else we have here. Yeah, can we move down a little? Oh, yeah. Those were the points I covered. I wanted to read another letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Jadharani. You know that the ISKCON painters, the artists, ISKCON artists, they had a lot of communication by letter with Srila Prabhupada to make sure that the paintings that they did were bona fide and accurate according to the situation. You know, so they would ask Srila Prabhupada, they would consult Srila Prabhupada about exactly how they should portray the scenes that are there in the Srimad-Bhagavatam or the Krishna book. Okay, so here we have a letter to Jadharani on the 14th of July, 1971, about Bhishma Dev lying on the bed of arrows. Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows on one side of the battlefield. There was trees and grass, but no dead men were around. Only there was the Pandavas, Krishna, and great sages such as Vyas, big men. Krishna was in the forefront in his royal dress. Bhishma was a stout and strong old man. The arrows were piercing his body only. They did not go all the way through. The arrows piercing his back were supporting his body, and there were many arrows piercing his chest. There were no arrows in his head. A sunset scene is all right. Interesting, huh? I thought that was interesting. So Prabhupada's giving direction about how to paint this scene that we're seeing here with Bhishma Dev. And then in another letter he wrote, regarding your questions, Bhishma Dev, when he was lying on his arrow bed before passing away, Lord Krishna, accompanied with the Pandavas, came to see him. Ordinarily, Bhishma Dev was a worshipper of Lord Vishnu, but he knew also that Krishna is the same Lord Vishnu. When Krishna came to see Bhishma Dev on his deathbed, Bhishma Dev remembered Krishna in his fighting feature at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Dev wanted to see Krishna angry. He knew that Krishna was very kind upon him, but to make a front, he displayed a chivalrous mood, pretending to try to kill Arjuna. Although he knew it very well that no power in the world could kill Arjuna while he was shielded by Krishna himself as the charioteer. Yet he tried to agitate the mind of Krishna. But Arjuna, he almost killed. Actually, Krishna thought it that Bhishma Dev was to see him in his angry mood and supposed to be broken in his promise to fulfill the desire of Bhishma Dev. He got down from the chariot and took a wheel of the chariot going forward as if to kill Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev, as soon as found Krishna in that angry mood, he gave up his fighting weapon and prepared himself for being killed by Krishna. This attitude of Krishna pleased Bhishma Dev very much, and at the time of his death, he recalled back that angry feature of Krishna. He was a military man, so he was pleased to see Krishna in a military spirit as much as the gopis wanted to see Krishna as the most beautiful lover. There is no difference between the attitude of the gopis and Bhishma Dev in the matter of exchanging transcendental mellows between God and his devotee. Krishna can be loved in any feature, and because he is absolute, there is no difference between the love of Krishna as a military man or as a simple gopi. Hare Krishna. I thought we might look, I don't know if we found the picture of Parthasarathi that Arjuna couldn't see.
I think I found it, Prabhu. That's the one at the back of the Bhagavad Gita with Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot with the 4 white horses, right?
Yeah,
Prabhu?
yeah.
Yes.
Let's just take a look. This is the picture that Bhishmadev wanted to remember at the time of his death. So this is very, very.
Get it, Prabhu?
We got it?
Yeah, you should stop sharing. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Okay, great. See?
Is that it?
Yeah. So I never noticed. I mean, I never thought about it, but see, there's the whip in his one hand. You see that? And in his other hand, he's holding the bridle rope. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the picture that Bhishmadev was wanting to focus on at the time of his death. There's Krishna, and Arjuna is there in the back with his looks like he's about to shoot arrows. Now, I don't know if you've heard it. I've heard it said. Somebody told me. I heard it someplace that one of the ways that the military person, not the chariot driver, but the actual military man, directed the movements of the chariot driver, when going here, right, left, or stop, was by touching the chariot driver with the foot. Have you ever heard that? Yeah,
Yes.
Parikshit Prabhu's heard it. I know
Yes.
that
Yes, I've heard.
some people say that, and that. So I mean that kind of plays into how Krishna took such a humble position to serve his devotee, that he's being put. If you want to make a right turn, you push with your right foot. If Arjuna wants Krishna to go right. I've never heard Srila Prabhupada say that, and it actually might be the case, but looking here at the picture, Arjuna is standing up, isn't it? Isn't it?
He's standing. It definitely doesn't look like he's sitting.
He's not sitting, like he's not like driving in a car, so it would be, and most of the time when he's shooting the arrows, you see him standing, not sitting down. So it would be, in that case, it would be hard for him to be using his foot to direct Krishna. Do you follow? Yeah. Plus, in Bhagavad Gita, we see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, when he's he's there on the battlefield surveying the armies, he tells Krishna, you take my chariot in between these armies. He tells them verbally. We don't see here that he's pushing his foot. So it certainly might be true, but I have my doubts that that's actually going on based on these pictures and what I just said, that he's pushing, the Arjuna was pushing his foot on Krishna to get him to move right or left. Now, it might be, but I don't have any support for that right now. Okay, so there are various points. I thought this was a really important verse. Prayers by Bhishmadev. Let me remember this picture of Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra driving the chariot of Arjuna Parthasarathi.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Such a wonderful class. Definitely a learning lesson. And that's why I always like your classes, because I get to learn something new because of how you make it so interactive. Thank you so much. Would like to ask.
Did you know that thing about Arjuna and Kunti only being in the material world?
That's a new thing. That's what I'm saying, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I always learn something from your class. It's like, I was like, whoa. And as you were saying, I went online to search for the letter, and I found the letter.
Yeah.
Yes, I found the letter, Prabhu. And that, I never knew that. And I think I did not know that was because, we've read in Bhagavatam, that Shri Prabhupada says in the purport that they were pure devotees. I'm thinking, okay, that means they're in Krishna Loka. That's just, it equates to that. But it was just from your letter, the one that you read. I was like, oh my gosh, I learned something new.
Then, I don't know. I mean, and another point there is that the devotee can be in many places at once instead of have only one soul. Well, he could be in Krishna Loka because he can be in many places at once. He or she.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
But that was definitely a learning lesson, like I just learned. So every time I hear your class, I learn something like, oh my God, wow, wow. And it's so nice. And I also liked when you read the letter that Sri Prabhupada wrote to Jadharani, Mother Jadharani, about the painting. And Sri Prabhupada was so detailed
Yes.
in his letters and the paintings, it was just amazing. Thank you
So
so much.
in those days, the artist would always consult with Prabhupada, and when Srila Prabhupada used to come to New York, they would bring all the paintings to show Srila Prabhupada, and he would comment on them, and sometimes they would make adjustments. And there was one painting that I think Mother Jadharani brought, that was Lord Krishna. He was sitting on a log or a tree branch and looked sad. And Srila Prabhupada said, "What's this?" And she said, "This is when, Srimati Radharani leaves the rasa dance and Krishna is lamenting." And Srila Prabhupada said there, he said, "Krishna doesn't lament like that. He doesn't lament like that." He said, "No, no, no." So then Mother Jadharani got a little disturbed. So Prabhupada said, "No, we can use this for another purpose. We can use this can illustrate another point," he said. Well, then he told the story about Krishna having a headache. That picture, that painting of that's Krishna having a headache. So you know the story, but so yeah, so they would check with always very carefully. And those paintings now, you look on the internet, and the really good pictures by the ISKCON artists dominate the pictures of Krishna around the world that you see. Not always, but not all of them, but they're very big majority are there because they were done with great care and devotion and under the instruction of, a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, who knows about Krishna.
That was really, really nice, Prabhu. Absolutely. Would like to ask devotees if you have any questions on this amazing topic, a discussion, please do unmute yourself and ask.
So,
yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, accept and hold obeisances, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Want to bring attention to the letter to Jadharani again, one of the letters, I'm not sure it's Jadharani, I think that's the one, where I just want to be sure, this is not a question, just want to be sure that I heard right, that the arrows that Arjuna shot at Bhishma did not go through the body totally, but it's none of the arrows, then were the arrows that got his back, or how? I'm just trying to get this, or maybe I didn't hear it properly.
Yeah, you heard it properly.
Papa was saying it didn't go through the body.
They didn't go all the way through, all the way through.
Yeah, that's what's portrayed in the Mahabharata movie, though. That looks like it's going on.
Yes. Many, so people do things in different ways. When they make movies, they do different things. They're not necessarily following the instructions of the acharyas. So, when they had a picture about Gopal Krishna, a movie back in the 80s, way back when, they made a picture of Gopal Krishna. So when Krishna saved Kurukshetra Maharaj in the womb of Mother Uttara, so after that, he was just like staggering, sweating. He was all overwhelmed. That's the way they portrayed it, because that was, somebody had that speculated about it, how this should happen. Krishna wasn't overwhelmed with that, so got to be, we got.
There was one point, Prabhu, that you mentioned in class that about Swarup, and you mentioned that that our eternal Swarup is to be Das Das Anudas. And sometimes I remember a question asked to Giriraj Swami, I think about 2 years ago during the COVID, and this person asked, how can I know what is my original spiritual Swarup? Am I a Gopal? Am I a Gopi? Am I a Manjari or whatever? And Shupra and sorry, and His Holiness
Yes,
Dheera
yes,
Swami says, Das Das Anudas.
yes.
But sometimes, Prabhu, we hear these questions. How can we really help devotees to, how can we not get into that whole mental mindset? Oh, am I this? Am I this? And really just surrender to just understand that it's just Das Das Anudas.
Well, the recommendation of Rupa Goswami is Utsahan Nishchayat Dharyat. Dharyat means, Utsahan means enthusiasm. Yeah, let me go back to Godhead and be an eternal servant in one of those rasas. Nishchayat means determination, and Dharyat means patience. Patience. That's one of the things you got to be patient. So we'll find out. You will find out, but not now. Not now. First you have to understand we're not this body. First, I'm not this body. I'm not. So to try to put the cart before the horse doesn't work. People even within ISKCON, devotees used to go to sometimes went to other Babajis and things who would tell them, "Oh, this is your Siddha Deha." Have you heard that before? Siddha Deha. There were different Babajis in Vrindavan and Puri that you would say, "Oh, you are a so and so Gopa or something like that." Most of those devotees fell down, fell down because first one has to. Prabhupada used the word made the kind of phrase: first deserve, then desire. First deserve, then desire. So don't put the cart before you'll be. Krishna will, just like Krishna will reveal himself to you, and as he reveals himself to you, he'll reveal your position in relation to him to you as well. Together they go. Just like when the sun rises, it's dark before, but when everything, you can see everything. You see yourself, you see Krishna, you see all the other things. So when Krishna has revealed himself to you, those things will also be revealed.
Thank you, Prabhu, for clarifying that. Thank you. Any other questions from devotees? We just passed the hour. I don't want to hold anyone up, but if you have questions, you can please do jump right in before we end. And if there isn't, thank you for such a wonderful class, Prabhu. Thank you. Vanchakrafti Vyascha, Kripasindabevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And thank you for sharing that letter, Prabhu. I'm so happy that I learned something new.